In the faint golden light of an Australian dawn, the shoreline of Somerton Beach seemed almost motionless. Waves rolled in with a rhythmic, calm insistence, a soft whisper here and gone, as if the ocean itself were breathing. Joggers and early risers walked the sand the same way they had for years, unaware that this particular morning would be different. For all the peace the beach radiated, something unsettling lay hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice it. Just after 6:30 a.m. on December 1st, 1948, a horseman riding along the sand saw what he first believed to be a drunk man sleeping near the seawall. His posture was strange, but not entirely alarming. The man wore a brown suit, well-pressed, elegant, even stylish, and lay on his back with his legs stretched out, feet crossed, and hands gently positioned at his sides. Nothing about the scene immediately screamed danger or foul play. Yet the stillness of his face, the unmistakable firmness in his jaw, and the silence surrounding him stirred a feeling that something was wrong. Minutes later, two more beachgoers approached, having noticed the man as well. One of them remarked how odd it was that he hadn't moved once since sunrise. The air was cool and carried a faint hint of sea spray, and in that delicate morning atmosphere, the realization settled in with chilling clarity. The man was dead.
The police arrived quickly, and so began one of the most perplexing mysteries in modern investigative history. Officers surveyed the body with a mix of caution and curiosity. The man looked peaceful, almost statuesque, with no signs of struggle, no evidence of drowning, and no outward injury of any kind. It was as if he had simply fallen asleep and never woken up. But something about the scene felt staged, deliberate. His clothing was immaculate. Every piece of fabric seemed pressed with intention. The stitching on his suit was high quality, and even his socks were carefully matched. The man had shaved recently, not a single hair was out of place. He appeared to be between 40 and 50 years old, well-groomed, in decent health. Yet not a single item on him revealed who he was. No wallet, no identification, no train or tram ticket, nothing indicating a destination, an origin, or even a purpose. The first clue came when an officer checked the man's inner jacket. All the labels had been removed. Every tag, every manufacturer's mark, carefully cut away from the clothing with precision. His pockets revealed almost nothing except a pack of chewing gum, a box of matches, 2 combs, and a partly smoked cigarette balanced oddly behind his ear. Not a single clue that could reveal his identity. As the body was transported to the Royal Adelaide Hospital for examination, rumors spread quickly through the coastal community. Who was the man? Why would someone dress so neatly only to be found dead on a public beach? Why were all labels removed from his clothing? There was something undeniably deliberate in the erasure of his identity. The police canvassed nearby hotels and boarding houses, but no one reported a missing guest matching his description. They searched through missing person records. Nothing. They contacted neighboring cities. Again, nothing. The man seemed to have materialized out of thin air. In the autopsy room, pathologist Dr. John Burton Cleland stood over the body with quiet intrigue. He noted the man's athletic build, strong calves, and soft hands, signs of someone who may have used his legs more than his arms, perhaps a dancer or someone accustomed to frequent movement. His toes were wedge-shaped, something commonly seen in people who wore fashionable, narrow shoes for long periods. But the real puzzle came with the internal examination. As Dr. Cleland opened the chest cavity, he noticed the man's organs were swollen and congested with blood. His stomach contained remains of a past meal, but nothing unusual. What troubled the doctor was the condition of the man's spleen, which was 3 times its normal size. His liver, too, showed signs of acute congestion. These findings pointed to poisoning, though there was no trace of any known poison in the body. In 1948, toxicology was far less advanced than it is today, and many rare poisons could pass through the body undetected. Digitalis, for example, a poison extracted from the foxglove plant, could kill silently and leave almost no trace. The possibility of a highly skilled poisoning was placed on the table, but never confirmed. The doctors were perplexed. How could a seemingly healthy man simply die without leaving behind any detectable substance in his system? Was it suicide, murder, an accident, or something far more complex? Days turned into weeks. With no identity emerging, investigators took the unusual step of photographing the dead man and distributing the image to newspapers across Australia. The photo captured a man with striking, almost refined features, a clean jawline, high cheekbones, and a calm, dignified expression frozen in time. Yet, despite thousands of readers viewing the image, no family member, friend, or colleague came forward. Frustration grew. Officers searched through every pocket yet again, every corner of fabric, every stitch, hoping to find something, anything that had been previously overlooked. For a while, it seemed hopeless. But then, 6 weeks after the body was discovered, a moment of revelation occurred. As a detective ran his fingers along the waistband of the man's trousers, he felt a small rough patch, something hidden inside. A secret pocket, unusual in modern trousers, was sewn into the lining, and within that pocket was a scrap of paper, tightly rolled and neatly trimmed. On that tiny scrap, printed in delicate black ink, were 2 words: Tamam Shud, meaning, in Persian, "it is finished," or simply, "the end." The words were instantly recognizable to anyone familiar with classic poetry. They came from the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a collection of philosophical, sometimes fatalistic verses that contemplated life, death, destiny, and the fleeting nature of human existence. The police now had their first genuine clue, but it only deepened the mystery. Why would a man carry the final words of a 12th century Persian poem hidden in a secret pocket? Was it a suicide note, a symbolic message, a code, a clue left behind intentionally? News of the breakthrough spread quickly, and the public became transfixed. Newspapers declared dramatic headlines. People flooded the police with theories. Some believed the man was a heartbroken lover who ended his life in a poetic flourish. Others thought he was a philosopher or a spiritual wanderer, but many suspected something darker. Australia, in 1948, was navigating the early years of the Cold War. Espionage and secret intelligence battles were very real. Rumors circulated about spies traveling under false identities, coded messages disguised in literature, and clandestine operations hidden behind ordinary appearances. The Somerton Man, with all labels removed from his clothes, no identification, no fingerprints in local or international files, and a cryptic scrap of paper, seemed to embody every hallmark of a covert operative. Police went on nationwide radio asking anyone with a copy of the Rubaiyat to check the final page, in case the words Tamam Shud had been torn out. It was a long-shot request, almost desperate, but incredibly, it worked. A man from Glenelg walked into a police station carrying a rare 1941 edition of the Rubaiyat. He claimed that someone had thrown the book into the backseat of his unlocked car months earlier. When officers inspected the final page, they saw a jagged tear, the exact shape and size of the Somerton Man. The book held even more surprises. On the inside back cover, faint pencil markings were visible under strong light. Codes, seemingly encrypted lines of letters, with no immediate meaning. A phone number was also scribbled on the page, belonging to a young nurse who lived just a few hundred meters from where the body had been found. Her involvement and the mysteries within the book would open an entirely new chapter of the investigation, one that mixed secrecy, fear, emotional tension, and the possibility of espionage. And yet, despite every discovery, the truth remained just out of reach. Each answer birthed a dozen new questions. Who was the Somerton Man? Why did he carry a coded book? Why was he connected, however loosely, to a nurse living nearby? And what message did Tamam Shud truly carry? The more investigators dug, the more the mystery deepened, an intricate maze of secrets, lies, and unanswered questions that would span decades. Twilight on Somerton Beach never looked unusual. Couples often sat along the seawall at night, People walked the sand, fishermen packed up their gear. Nothing seemed out of place. But sometime between 7 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. on November 30th, 1948, a man, unknown to everyone around him, made his final journey to the shore. What happened next became one of the most baffling unsolved deaths in modern history. Just after 6:30 a.m. on December 1st, 1948, a man named John Lyons was walking along Somerton Beach with his wife. The early sun had just begun to warm the sand when he noticed something unusual near a low seawall. It looked like a man sitting upright, legs extended, leaning back as though resting after a long walk. His feet were neatly placed together. His hands rested loosely on the sand. From a distance, he could have been sleeping. But as Lyons walked past, he noticed something strange. The man didn't move, not even a twitch, no shifting of weight, no flicker of the eyes. Lyons shrugged it off. Maybe the man was drunk or sleeping off a long night. But later that morning, another passerby approached the same spot. This time, they got closer. The man wasn't asleep at all. He was dead. At around 6:45 a.m., authorities were notified. Constable John Moss arrived quickly, examined the body, and realized something wasn't right. The man's posture was too neat, too composed. His head was propped against the seawall. His legs were straight and together, shoes polished and clean, far too clean for someone who had walked across sand. And there were no signs of a struggle. The positioning of the body only deepened the mystery. Most corpses show clear signs of collapse, limp limbs, awkward angles, a body slumped by gravity. But this man appeared carefully arranged, almost posed. A single half-smoked cigarette rested on the lapel of his coat, as if placed there intentionally. Even more unusual, there was no vomit, no convulsions, no immediate marks on the skin, none of the typical signs of a violent death by poison. If the man had died elsewhere and been carried here, there would be drag marks in the sand. There were none. If he had died suddenly, he should have fallen sideways or forward. He didn't. Everything about the scene suggested unnatural calm. As investigators examined the man further, the sense of strangeness only intensified. His clothes were immaculately pressed despite the warm weather. He wore a perfectly fitted brown suit, shined leather shoes, and a clean white shirt. But every single tag, label, and manufacturer's mark had been removed. Even the label inside his trousers had been cut out. Someone had taken deliberate steps to conceal his identity. His pockets contained a few items: an unused train ticket from Adelaide to Henley Beach, a bus ticket, a pack of juicy fruit gum, cigarettes, matches, and a comb. Practical objects, ordinary objects, but nothing with a name, nothing with initials, not even a laundry mark, something nearly every person had on their clothing in the 1940s. Then there was the man's physical appearance: clean-shaven, athletic build, well-groomed. His hands were smooth, without calluses, suggesting he didn't work manual labor. His calves were particularly muscular, shaped like a dancer's or long-distance runner's. His teeth were unusual, one molar missing, another rare dental formation identified in less than 1% of people. But his face revealed nothing. Handsome, composed, unremarkable. A man who could blend into any crowd, yet stood out in death. The body was transported to the Royal Adelaide Hospital, where Dr. John Burton Cleland conducted a full examination. What he found made the case even more perplexing. The man's organs were congested with blood, especially the stomach and liver. His spleen was enlarged to 3 times its normal size. His stomach was full of blood and contained the remains of a pasty, likely his final meal. These were classic signs of poisoning. Yet toxicology tests found no trace of any known poison. No barbiturates, no cyanide, no arsenic, nothing detectable at all. The natural question followed: what kind of poison? Some speculated digitalis or strophanthine, rare cardiac glycosides that leave little trace in the body. Others suspected a synthetic poison developed during World War II, something known only to intelligence agencies. Still others believed it was an extremely rare plant-based toxin, one virtually impossible to identify with 1940s technology. But there was no bottle, no vial, no injection marks, no residue, nothing to indicate how poison could have been administered. The more investigators dug, the stranger the puzzle became. Everything seemed intentional. Everything seemed hidden behind an invisible curtain. Why remove the labels from his clothes? Why carry no identification? Why did he die in such a carefully arranged position? Why did no one report him missing? And then came the final twist, something discovered weeks later, something so bizarre that it would send the case spiraling into legend. A hidden message. A slip of paper with 2 words that would haunt investigators for generations. Tamam Shud. The end. This wasn't just a mysterious death anymore. It was the opening chapter of a puzzle with too many missing pieces, evolving from an unexplained tragedy into one of the strangest detective stories ever recorded. And it was only going to get stranger. Somerton Beach had no wallet, no ID, no labels on his clothes, and no fingerprints matching any database in Australia. The public began calling him simply the Somerton Man. Newspapers printed sketches of his face, but no family came forward. No employer, no friends, no one who recognized him at all. It was as though he had stepped out of thin air. But in mid-December of 1948, nearly 2 weeks after the body was found, a new discovery changed everything. It came from the Adelaide railway station, the same station the man had likely visited on his final day alive. A brown suitcase had been sitting abandoned in the station's cloakroom since November 30th, the day before the man was found. No one had claimed it, no one had come looking for it. And now, with national headlines swirling around the mysterious death, station staff alerted the police. Detectives rushed to the station, hoping this would be the breakthrough they desperately needed. A suitcase could reveal everything: a name, a passport, personal documents, something that would finally identify the man whose death had become a riddle. But when they opened it, what they found only deepened the mystery. Inside the brown suitcase were clothes neatly folded, a shaving kit, a screwdriver, a pair of scissors sharpened in a strange way, a table knife filed down into a tool, and a brush used by stenciling workers. There was also a thread card containing a very particular type of orange thread, barber waxed thread, not sold in Australia. The same thread had been used to repair the dead man's trousers. More clothing. More ordinary items. But once again, something crucial was missing. Every label, every tag, every identifying mark had been carefully removed or cut out. The same pattern seen on the man's body repeated here in the suitcase. It was becoming unmistakably clear someone had gone to great lengths to erase this man's identity. But there was one exception. One small item in the suitcase had escaped the mysterious purge, a single laundry mark. It read T. Keane. Investigators seized this with hope. They checked laundries across Australia, contacted military records, civilian records, shipping manifests, and even missing persons reports. But no T. Keane was missing. And more importantly, detectives noticed something odd. Every item bearing that name was untouched. It was almost as if the killer, or perhaps the man himself, had deliberately left that one name to mislead investigators. If that was the intention, it worked. The name led nowhere. Still, detectives pressed forward. They studied the scissors ground to a sharp point, the knife that had been filed down, and the stenciling tools. These weren't random objects. They were tools often used by sailors, cargo workers, or people who marked crates and equipment, a detail that hinted the Somerton Man might have worked around shipping, docking, or merchant vessels. But again, nothing conclusive emerged. The suitcase gave investigators something to work with, but not enough to solve the mystery. And then came the moment that transformed the Somerton case from a frustrating puzzle into a near-mythic enigma. Months after the man's death, the authorities decided to conduct a final search of his clothing. They examined every seam, every fold, every pocket, and inside the man's trousers, hidden deep within a small secret pocket sewn inside the lining, they found a tightly rolled scrap of paper. It was no larger than a thumbnail. Printed on it were 2 words. Printed. Cut precisely from a book. The slip read, Tamam Shud. The end. The words came from the final page of a book, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a centuries-old collection of Persian poetry. The discovery electrified investigators. Why would a dying man carry a secret scrap of paper with the words "The End" hidden inside his clothes? Had someone planted it on him to send a message? Did he place it there himself? Was it a suicide note phrased in a poetic code? Or was it something far more complex? The police immediately began searching for the specific copy of the book from which the scrap had been cut. They reached out to libraries, bookshops, and the public, hoping someone would come forward with a damaged copy missing its final words. But nothing surfaced.
For a while, the clue seemed to lead nowhere. But then, in August 1949, months after the man had been buried, a local man walked into the Adelaide police station holding a battered copy of the Rubaiyat. He explained that one morning, around the time the Somerton Man's story had been dominating the news, he had found the book thrown into the back seat of his car. He had no idea who put it there or how long it had been there. When detectives inspected the book, their hearts raced. The final page had been torn out, and the torn edge matched the scrap of paper found in the dead man's pocket with perfect precision.
They had found the source. But the discovery only raised more questions. How had the book ended up in the man's car? Who had placed it there? And why did the Somerton Man carry that tiny scrap of its final words on his body? The book wasn't just a match. It contained even more secrets. Under ultraviolet light, faint indentations appeared on one of the pages, marks left behind as if someone had written on paper placed on top of the book. The indentations formed lines of strange, broken letters. They looked like a code, a cipher, 5 lines of seemingly random letters grouped in patterns.
And on another page, they found a phone number, a local Adelaide number, one belonging to a young woman who lived less than a mile from where the Somerton Man had died. The moment the police found that number, everything changed. And the woman behind that number, she held secrets of her own.
In the months and years that followed, the Somerton Man case refused to fade away. It lingered in the collective consciousness of Australia like a ghost story whispered across generations. Theories multiplied, stretching from the mundane to the extraordinary. Some believed he was a heartbroken man who ended his own life in quiet despair. Others were convinced he was the victim of a professional assassination, silenced with a poison so rare that it left no trace. But no theory could fully explain the strange pieces left behind. The hidden scrap of paper, the missing labels, the coded letters pressed into the pages of a book, the mysterious phone number leading to a woman who denied ever knowing him, and a dead man lying on the sand, dressed like a businessman with no past behind him. Investigators interviewed the woman connected to the phone number, a young nurse living near Somerton Beach. Her reaction when shown the man's plaster cast was unmistakable, an involuntary shock, a flicker of recognition she couldn't hide. Yet she insisted she had no idea who he was. Police suspected she was lying, perhaps to protect herself or someone else, or something far bigger than the public would ever be allowed to understand. But without evidence, suspicion was all they had. As decades passed, the case remained frozen. Files yellowed, witnesses grew old, theories hardened into legends. and the Somerton Man became less of a person and more of a symbol, an unanswered question from another time. Even in death, he was silent, unreachable, unnamed. But the world had changed, science evolved, new tools emerged, and in the 21st century, the case stirred once again. DNA technology, once a fantasy, became real, powerful enough to resurrect forgotten histories from the smallest biological traces. Researchers and forensic genealogists began a new quest to uncover the truth, to give a name to the man without one. For a moment, hope flickered again. Hair preserved from the man's plaster cast provided a fragile link to the past, and new DNA analysis suggested possible family lines stretching back to Europe. But even with modern science, answers arrived slowly, entangled in the complications of time, incomplete samples, and contested interpretations. For every clue uncovered, more uncertainty emerged. The puzzle resisted resolution, just as it had resisted every attempt before. Yet the story of the Somerton Man is not defined only by mystery. It is defined by persistence, by the people, detectives, scientists, historians, and ordinary citizens who refused to let him vanish completely, who believed that every human life, no matter how obscure, deserves to be remembered, deserves a name. Today, more than 70 years after that quiet morning on Somerton Beach, the case remains one of the most haunting, unsolved mysteries in modern history. A man with no identity, no past, and no clear cause of death. The end. Those two words, found hidden in his pocket, echo through time like a final whisper. Were they his last statement? A poetic farewell? Or the signature of someone else entirely, someone watching from the shadows? We may never know. But one truth endures. The Somerton Man did not simply die. He left behind a trail of questions that outlived his body, outlived the investigators who examined him, and outlived the era that claimed him. A trail that continues to draw people around the world into its orbit, searching for an ending that has never fully arrived. And maybe that is fitting, because some stories are not meant to close neatly. Some mysteries exist to remind us of the boundaries of what we understand. And the Somerton Man, silent on the sand beneath the rising sun, remains one of those stories, a final riddle written in the margins of history, waiting for someone, someday, to turn the last page. Until then, his legend endures. His mystery endures, and the search for the truth continues. And so, the mystery lingers. The clues remain unsolved, the questions unanswered, but the search continues. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time as we uncover more of the world's greatest mysteries.